Sports Talk with Elite Wagers.
Yo, what's happening, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Sports Talk of Elite Wagers. Apologies for no episode last week due to unforeseen circumstances. I wasn't able to jump on and do an episode last week. I did still post my weekly card and my weekly fantasy football suggestions on Twitter. So, looking to get back into it again this weekend. Solid betting card available this weekend. We've got some Premier League, FA Cup. We got that huge Eubank and Benn fight as well, which I'll be breaking down a little bit. And then, one or two plays in the UFC, as well as a huge fantasy football segment as well. I got the EPL Monster over on FanTeam. And then I'm also doing the weekend double on FanTeam as well, which is the Liverpool Spurs game and the Nottingham Forest and Man City game. So I'll be breaking down those as well. I'll do a little recap on the EPL Final Sprint as well, considering I wasn't on last week. I've run down a little bit of those. Obviously, due to the FA Cup weekend, there's going to be a few teams that don't play this week. So I think it's going to be crucial this week to take a listen and listen to this week's suggestions for fantasy and for this week's betting as well. So getting into it, I'm going to start off with some football. Okay, so we're going to go into some Premier League action. I'm going to keep it quite slight this week. I think there's a lot of games that are quite meaningless for a lot of teams. So a lot of upcoming factors. Arsenal being one. They have the Champions League next week, midweek, so they could they are resting a lot of their players. A lot of teams aren't really playing for much. Maybe they're either already relegated or just safe, or they can't move up or down in the table, so there's not much to play for a lot of teams. And so I tried to pick out some sort of angles where I think it'll be beneficial for specific teams. So I'm going to start this betting card off with the early kickoff and the first Premier League game of the weekend. That's going to be Everton, who play away to Chelsea. Starting with Chelsea, the home team. Chelsea are pushing for Champions League, that final Champions League spot. Their recent form should suggest that they should still contend for a Champions League place. It's getting a bit juicy at the top of the table now. So in terms of placement, 3rd and 7th place are all separated by just 3 points. And obviously this year England get 5 Champions League places as well. If Man United or Tottenham win their Europa League, they also get Champions League. So we could see up to 6, 7, 8, even possibly 9 in certain circumstances that English teams, there'll be 9 English teams in Europe this year. But Chelsea still have it all to play for, a lot to do as well. Chelsea more recently against English opposition, lost 4, won 4, drawn 2. So, up and down sort of schedule the past couple of weeks. Those 4 wins though were against Fulham, Leicester, Southampton and Spurs. So, 3 of those teams, or 2 of those teams are already relegated. Spurs are in the bottom of the league. Fulham are sort of pushing for one of those final European spots as well. So it doesn't really bode well for their sort of confidence that they've only been able to beat teams that are sort of already relegated in effect. So their opponents haven't really scored too many. Fulham, Leicester, Southampton, Spurs, they don't score too often. They're not stacking the games with goals. And they do concede a reasonable amount as well. So again, showcasing the fact that they can't sort of break away from the bottom of the league kind of teams. Chelsea themselves haven't also scored. They haven't scored many. They scored 10 in the last 10, so averaging 1 a game. And they scored 4 against Southampton. So, scoring 6 against 9 teams in the last 10 games isn't really a positive thing for Chelsea. They have also conceded 11 goals, so they haven't exactly been able to keep clean sheets either. One positive thing for Chelsea, I will have to mention, is they've made Stamford Bridge, a fortress. 7 wins, 2 losses, and 7 wins, 2 draws, 1 loss in the last 10 games. So it's going to be a very difficult game for Everton. But Everton, they do play teams very, very tough. Only 3 teams concede less than Everton this year, so they've been very, very good defensively. And obviously coming up against a team that can't score too often is going to bode well for Everton. They've only lost 2 of the last 10 games, but they have also only won 2 in the last 10. They've managed to snatch points from some very well placed teams. So Forest, Liverpool, Arsenal, Man City, also Chelsea in the last head-to-head. They've managed to snatch points away from those top teams. Obviously showcasing the fact that they can compete against teams in the top half of the league, and they actually play better against teams in the top of the league as well. Everton are purely built on their solid defence. Chelsea attack isn't really good enough to score a hatful of goals, in my opinion. I think Chelsea will struggle with it. They have struggled with a clear sort of number 9. Nicholas Jackson is back, but no one's really been scoring a handful of goals for Chelsea, and obviously that's going to favour Everton in their defensive setup. 7 straight games for Everton have gone under 2.5 goals, showcasing their ability to be able to keep games very, very close. And obviously, with their success this year, being able to contend with the top teams in the league, I'm going to expect another low-scoring game between these 2 teams, and I'm actually going to expect the away team to be able to grab another point from a top of the table team. So I'm going to go with Everton or draw, and that's going to be at plus 130. So the second game I'm going with is Ipswich, who are away to Newcastle. It's looking likely already, but Ipswich will be relegated if they drop a point in this game. Dropping points is the most likely outcome. Ipswich have won 5 in the last 25 games. 2 of those were against championship teams in the League Cup and the FA Cup. So, in the Premier League, they've not been good at all. They have found some slight success recently in scoring goals. They've scored 12 goals in the last 10 games, but that is about it, and that's still not a very, very good factor to have in your corner. They've only scored 33 goals on the season, which is averaging 1 per game, but they have conceded a huge 71 goals, which is 2 per game. Newcastle, on the other hand, they are the home team. They found a new level recently. Obviously, they won the League Cup against Liverpool. They are currently in a Champions League spot. They need wins to sort of solidify their position. It's between sort of them and Nottingham Forest for that 3rd place at the moment. But again, like I said, between 3rd and 7th is only separated by 3 points. So dropping points here could be crucial for Newcastle in their Champions League expectations. These are kind of games that they're going to need to win. They need to beat teams like Ipswich if they want to continue to solidify that position. They've lost just 2 in the last 10 games, so recent form is suggesting they will continue their little hot streak and beat Ipswich this weekend. They're undefeated in 6 straight at home, and they've won by a score margin of 18-6 in those same 6 games. They've also scored 2+ goals in 10 straight home wins. 8 of those have been won by a 2-goal margin as well at home. So at home, similar to Chelsea, it's St James's Park is a bit of a fortress. Being able to win comfortably as well by 2 or more goals in a lot of their wins. So only two teams this year have scored more goals than Newcastle. They've scored 62, and they've actually conceded the 8th least amount of goals as well. So they've been very good defensively, very hot offensively as well. A huge contrast in between these 2 clubs. Newcastle obviously been able to score at will. Ipswich concede a lot of goals on a regular occurrence. Ipswich also have struggled to score multiple goals, which is one of the big reasons why they can't contend. Newcastle's last 3 wins have been by 3+ goals, and they've won by a margin of 12-1. So I'm expecting Newcastle to be able to pour it on again in this game. In the sort of unlikely scenario where goal difference does come down to it, I think Newcastle will be able to score a few more goals in this one than sort of their league opponents. So I'm actually going to go for Newcastle on a handicap, and it's going to be Newcastle -2, and that's going to be plus 100. So my next one is pretty short and sweet in my opinion. I'm going to go for Leicester versus Wolves. And, again, another team that's going to be relegated is Leicester. They've been very, very poor. They've scored just 27, so it's under 1 on average per game. But they've also conceded 71, which is around 2 per game. They have scored only 3 in the last 10 games. and that actually included an 8-game streak where they had not scored a goal at all. They've won just 2 away games, which were against Spurs and Southampton, so another relegated team and another team, sitting very, very near the bottom. There's just nothing much positive to say about Leicester. Wolves, however, they have been in the better form recently, unbeaten in 3 straight at home, 7 straight in total, so in really, really good form. I was actually at the Man United game against Wolves on the weekend, and obviously Wolves came away 1-0 winners. They managed to shut down the Man United offence, and I think, a team like Man United at the moment, in terms of their goal scoring, is fairly similar to Leicester. Both teams unable to score, so with them being able to shut down the Man United offence, who have a few bigger names than Leicester, I think they'll quite comfortably to shut down this Leicester team, to be honest. They've actually scored 48 goals, conceded 61. 8 of the last 10 home wins have been by 2 or more goals as well. So again, home advantage does prevail in this one as well. Leicester have also conceded 2 goals or more in 8 of the last 10, so that's another solid factor going towards Wolves. The most recent head-to-head was 3-0 Wolves. Again, solidifies the whole, winning by 2 or more goals. I just expect Wolves to dominate, and like I said, they beat Man United fairly comfortably last weekend. I'm going to call the Man United offence fairly non-existent. They held them to just 2 shots on target. I think it's going to be a very similar outcome for Leicester. So I'm going to go for Wolves -1 at +100. I'm actually going to switch it up now to the FA Cup. 2 FA Cup games this weekend. Semi-finals, we've got Aston Villa, who play away to Crystal Palace. The first FA Cup game of the weekend. Palace are actually in a really, really good patch of form. They've lost 2 in the last 10, drew 2, won 6. But, however, they have just won 1 in the last 5. They've conceded 10 in the last 3 games as well, which isn't ideal. They played as well last night, which would have been Wednesday night, and they were 2-2 against Man City. Not Man City, Chelsea. Arsenal. Sorry, Arsenal. I'm going through the whole league. Palace, 2-2 against Arsenal, which was a fairly comfortable decision for them, to be honest. But they've been able to they've conceded quite a few, make that 12 goals in the last 4 games, which isn't really good enough. But they have, however, scored 17. Will make that 19 now in the last 11 games. Villa have lost just 2 in the last 10, and they were against Man City midweek and against PSG in Paris. So 2 top teams. Crystal Palace, rank below those 2 teams. They have lost just 4 in the last 20. They were, however, dominated by Palace in the Premier League earlier in the season, where they lost 4-1. But there's honestly a lot to play for both teams. Villa look to be in prime position to take the win. Palace obviously playing the most recent game of the 2. They played on Wednesday night, and they did play a lot of their teams. Mateta scored, Eze scored as well, so they played a lot of their first team. Whereas Villa have had a few extra days rest. Obviously, Villa have made their home ground a fortress. They haven't been as good away, but I think they will be able to get the job done against Palace, trying to get to their first final for many, many, many years. So I'm going to go for Villa to qualify. That's going to be -147. And then the final football game of the weekend is going to be the final game of the FA Cup as well. Man City, who play away to Nottingham Forest. So it's going to be a great game between 2 solid teams. A little bit of injury news. Ederson is looking likely not to play. And it's looking likely it's going to be Ortega on goal. Haaland obviously still out. And Chris Wood is back for Nottingham Forest as well, which is a huge boost for them. Man City, they haven't been in great form this season. Been up and down all year long. But they have got a bit of form behind them now. 7 games unbeaten. Lost just 1 in the last 10, and that was to Nottingham Forest. They've scored 2 or more in 7 of the last 10, so they're finding their rhythm without Haaland. Mamouche is playing up front, but a lot of players are contributing to their goal scoring at the moment. On the other side, Forest, really, really good defensive team. They've been able to keep a lot of games close. They've lost just 3 in the last 10, and they were to Villa and Newcastle. So, two top teams. And obviously, like I said, they beat Man City a few weeks ago as well. But both of those losses against Villa and Newcastle were by 1 goal, so they've been able to keep a lot of games very, very close. They've been able to contend with most teams in the Premier League. They don't get blown out a lot. Again, I'm using the word fortress. Fortress at home for Nottingham Forest. Lost just 1 in 12, and that was a 1-0 loss to Everton. So again, very, very close games for Nottingham, and I think that they're sort of built on this good defence and quite a streaky offence, which are very, very speedy. And then you've got the target man Chris Wood in the middle. So I'm going to go with the home team and the underdog. I'm going to go with Nottingham Forest to qualify, and it's going to be plus 200. I just think they want it more. They haven't done this in a long time. Man City are serial winners, obviously, of the FA Cup, especially getting to this stage. They do it on a regular occurrence, but I've got a good feeling about Nottingham Forest, and their defence can keep Man City quiet. And I think Forest will qualify, and I think they will make it to the final. So yeah, Nottingham Forest qualify at plus 200.
Fantasy with FanTeam.
Right, let's get into my favourite part of the show, the fantasy football segment. A little quick intro to those of you that are new. I have partnered up with a fantastic fantasy app called FanTeam, the biggest DFS platform in Europe. Hundreds of contests weekly across from all major sports. You've got football, all the leagues, Premier League, La Liga, everything like that. NBA, MLB, even some ice hockey on there. They have NFL when NFL season's about. Golf, DFS as well, Formula, Fantasy, and they've got absolute tons, and their sportsbook is also very competitive odds as well, so I highly recommend heading over to FanTeam. As part of my partnership with FanTeam, they've given me my own exclusive sign-up link, and that will be linked in the description, so click that link, sign up and deposit £10 and get £25 free, so huge value, and you can get involved in these contests. An additional offer for this week is if you sign up using my link, there's a no deposit required action. You will get a free ticket to the EPL Monster, and that's basically on me. So sign up using my link, no deposit required, get a free ticket, continue to listen, and let's make a really, really good EPL Monster contest team this week. So I'm going to get into it, break down the EPL Monster, giving my my best options for a few positions, my best captain option, and a value selection as well. So the point of the captain, you get a 1.5 times multiplier added to the score, and the value player is basically a player that's very, very undervalued. It's under the average amount per player. And that will allow you to be able to get all these high-priced players in your team. So yeah, let's get into it. EPL Monster contest over on FanTeam. Starting off with the goalkeeper position, I'm going to go for Kepa Arrizabalaga for Bournemouth. He will cost you 9.9 million. He's got 7 clean sheets in 26 starts this year. Back-to-back clean sheets for him as well. 85 saves on the season, which averages out to 3.2 per game, so you're going to get a few extra points for those saves. He's only conceded 33 goals, which is fairly good when you compare it to a lot of other goalkeepers, which is it's 1.2 per game on average. But it's still around 1 a game in terms of Premier League games and things like that. In terms of fantasy production, he's averaging 3.5 fantasy points per game. He's got 15 combined over the last 2 games. We've had 2 clean sheet games and 2 back-to-back very, very good games for Kepa. He will play Man United. As mentioned earlier, Man United's offense hasn't been very, very good. So I'm going to go with Kepa to be able to keep them quiet, as did Wolves last weekend. He actually kept a clean sheet in a 3-0 win against Man United earlier in the season, and in that game he had 7 saves, so he had a high amount of fantasy points in that game. United obviously haven't been the best goal-scoring team. They've struggled to find attacking form with their strikers. If you take away the last 2 games versus Lyon, United scored just 1 in the last 4 games. They have stated that they are prioritising Europa League and they will rotate and rest some of their starters. This game now is the closest game to the Europa League tie, so they're playing on Sunday and their Europa League is on Thursday, so they're going to be resting a lot of players with that in mind. I think Bournemouth are going to be able to shut down Man United and the Man United offence, and I think Kepa will get some clean sheet points this weekend, so I think he's a very, very good option for a goalkeeper, and he is a bit of a value option as well. Even though he's 9.9 million, there's a lot of keepers that are still valued higher than him, so I think he's a very, very good option for your goalkeeper. Next up is going to be, I'm going to go for a defender, and it's going to be Nuri for Wolves. He's a defender and he's going to cost 11.7 million, so quite high in terms of valuation. But just going and stating the fact he's a defender, but he does have 11 goal contributions in 33 starts. So he has a 1 goal contribution every 3 games. He also has 6 clean sheets this season, and he's got 2 clean sheets and 2 goal contributions in his last 10 games. So he's getting a bit of production on both ends of the field. In terms of fantasy production, he's averaging 3 fantasy points per game. He's ranked as the 19th best defender, which, if you think about it, isn't exactly a bad stat considering he plays for Wolves, who are, they were near relegation. Recent form has him ranked as number 1 defender in the Premier League. 3 of his last 4 games, he surpassed his 3 fantasy points average. He kept a clean sheet in the last head-to-head against Leicester. And, as mentioned before for the bet I had in this game, Leicester have been very, very poor offensively. They've scored just 3 in the last 10. That included the 8-game goalless streak. Wolves, again, in very good form, won 5 in a row, 7 undefeated. And I don't see Leicester posing much of a threat this game. I think the Wolves defence will be able to keep a clean sheet, again, as they did against Man United last weekend. My next option is going to be another defender. I'm going to go for Virgil van Dijk of Liverpool. He's going to cost 10.7 million, so a little bit lower in valuation. Van Dijk and Liverpool have conceded the second least amount of goals this season with 31 in 33 games. Van Dijk has got 14 clean sheets on the season. Liverpool have 5 clean sheets in the last 10 games, so 50% hit rate in the last 10. But they have a very ideal matchup playing against a weak Spurs team who are 16th in the league. Spurs, they've struggled this season, especially more recently. They've scored just 6 goals in the last 5 games in the Premier League. Van Dijk is currently ranked as the 7th best defender. He's averaging 4 points per game, and that's a number he has surpassed in 5 of his last 7 games. With Liverpool being one of the best defensive teams, obviously Spurs being on the opposite end of their attack, being a very average offensive team, I think there's a clear edge for the Liverpool defenders. In my opinion, I think Van Dijk is a must-have in your defensive line this week. I think he's going to get the most points for Liverpool's defensive unit in this game. Next up, where are we? Let's go for a midfielder. We'll go through it like that. So we're going to go for midfielder, and I'm going to go for Harvey Barnes of Newcastle. He's going to cost you 15 million, and he is a captain option for myself this week. He's got 13 contributions in 28 games. He's only had 12 starts in those 28 appearances as well. 7 contributions in the last 7 starts since return from injury. He has had a lot of injury problems this year, but again, recent form, 7 contributions in his last 7 games. He has 47 total shots with 16 on target, which averages to 1.6 shots per game and 0.5 shots on target per game. So his shot production isn't up, but again, he's been out for a lot of the year. He averages 4 fantasy points per game, and he's surpassed that in 6 straight games. He has 8.6 average fantasy points in the last 6 games, so he's almost doubled it, his average. He's ranked as the 20th best midfielder this season, but again, due to injuries, he's been bumped down that list, but his recent form has him at number 1. Newcastle found another gear. He's scored 13 goals in the last 4 games. In really, really good form. He's priced fairly nicely. He plays a relegation-bound Ipswich. As mentioned in my bet selection earlier, Newcastle, they've scored a ton. Only 2 teams have scored more, and they've been able to score 2+ goals in a lot of their wins as well. So I think if there's going to be goals in this game, it's going to be Harvey Barnes. Is going to be on that stat sheet somewhere. And I think, with him playing Ipswich, I think he's an ideal opportunity for a captain suggestion this week. Next up, a player I'm fairly high on, and fairly high on more recently. It's going to be Cunha for Wolves. He's a forward, and he's going to cost 13 million. And again, he's another captain suggestion for me. As you all should know, well, the regulars will know I'm a Man United fan, and like I said, I was there for the game on Sunday. Man United didn't really play too well. Well, they played better than Wolves, but they didn't play too well. But one player that did impress me for Wolves was Cunha. The way he was drifting around the field and collecting balls, he's very confident on the ball. He's very comfortable with the ball, and he almost strikes a bit of fear into the defence when he has the ball, and that sort of shows in his stats this year. So he's got 22 goal contributions in the last 27 starts. He scored 7 goals in his last 10 games. In terms of his shot production, 97 shots, 38 on target, which averages to 3.5 shots on goal and 1.4 shots on target. In terms of fantasy production, he averages 5 fantasy points per game, but he has surpassed that number in 6 of his last 8 games. He's currently ranked as the 4th best striker this season, and like I said, I'm a Man United fan. He's been heavily linked to Man United this season. He could sort of use these upcoming games to help solidify a move. He has also scored two goals in 2 games versus Leicester. And like I mentioned with the Nuri pick in defence, I think Wolves should have their way against Leicester. They were in very good form as a team, offensively and defensively. Cunha is in very good form personally too, so not many high-end strikers are playing this week. I think he's going to be a very popular pick, but I think he's worth the risk. So I'm expecting Cunha to get back in form by bagging a goal or 2. As always, the safety net feature also applies. So if he doesn't start or if he doesn't play, then Larson will be subbed in, and he's obviously going to have equal opportunities as well. But I'm going to be backing Cunha probably for my captain this week. Final suggestion for my EPL Monster contest this week is going to be my strike partner for Cunha. In effect, it's going to be Raul Jimenez for Fulham. He's also a forward, and he's going to cost 12.5 million. He's got 15 goals in 26 starts. He scored 5 in his last 10 games, but he actually hasn't scored since his 4 goals for Mexico. So that's 5 games without a goal. He's got 77 shots, 30 on target, which averages to 2.9 shots and 1.1 on target. And his fantasy production is reasonable. He averages 3.5 fantasy points per game. He's in a little bit of a small goal drought, but I think this is an ideal game to bounce back with. Obviously, again, playing relegation-bound Southampton. They've conceded the most goals in the league, and they are statistically the worst team the Premier League has ever seen. I think Fulham will dominate this game. They need wins to try and contend for those final European spots. If Jimenez doesn't start, safety net feature will put in Muniz as well, who also is in very, very good. Well, he's in decent form as well this year. So either one of the two, but I'm going to go for Raul Jimenez. I think he gets the nod, and I think he can bag a few goals against this team this week as well. Okay, so the next contest I'm going to break down is the Sunday double, and that's going to include the games Liverpool versus Spurs and Man City versus Nottingham Forest. In this contest, you'll pick 6 players. And it's basically a personal preference in this one. I think it's however you see these 2 games going. So for me, I think Liverpool will beat Spurs. I think they'll be quite dominant. And in the Man City and Nottingham Forest game, I think it's going to be a very close, contested game. And I think it's going to be a low-scoring affair as well. So for a few suggestions in this one, I'm going to go for Ortega in goal. He's priced reasonably, and when you look at sort of a few of his little stats, he hasn't played too often for Man City this year, but he's averaging. He's actually only played 2 games this year, and they were both in the cup, and he got 2.3 points and 1.8 points as he conceded against Plymouth and Leyton Orient. But it's a difficult one. He's conceded 2 goals. He's saved 3, and obviously Edison is out, but it's one of those where I can't really see Nottingham Forest scoring too many goals. He's priced reasonably. He's 10.1 million, so I think Ortega, I think he can possibly keep a clean sheet in this game. I don't think both teams are going to be sort of high scoring, and I think the defense will be fairly solid for Man City this week. So I'm going to go for Ortega in goal. As mentioned in the EPL Monster, I'm also going to Van Dijk, so I won't break down Van Dijk as much. And then, surprisingly, I didn't mention in my EPL Monster is Mo Salah. Obviously, everyone knows how exceptional he's been. 27 goals, 18 assists. He's just been absolutely incredible this year. He's averaging 9.4 fantasy points per game, which is huge. He hasn't played too well more recently, but there's no concern of mine for Mo Salah. And obviously, I think Liverpool will sort of dominate Tottenham as well. I think Mo Salah will be amongst the goals this weekend. And then let me go for one more. So I'm going to go for Kevin De Bruyne. Like I said, I think it's going to be a very low scoring game. But Kevin De Bruyne, he's obviously going to be leaving Man City this year. He hasn't done too good this year. He's only got 2 goals, 1 assist. But he's historically, amazing. 7 fantasy points per game on average. He's only played 3 games in this contest for Man City. But I don't know, it's just one of those games where it's going to take someone really, really special to break down this Nottingham defence, and Kevin De Bruyne is a really, really special player. So it wouldn't surprise me to see him on the scoreboard, or even on the stats with an assist. So good luck to anyone on this contest. I think it's going to be a very difficult one, but I'm really stuck in my ways on who I think is going to win and how I think these games will pan out. And I don't think there's much more I can suggest on this one without sounding a bit too biased. So we're going to move on from that one. We're going to go into the EPL Final Sprint Contest. We're in week 5 now. I think we're in week 5, and this game week has got FA Cup games. So as I mentioned earlier, there's going to be a few teams that will not play. So therefore, it might be an ideal opportunity to sub out some players that aren't going to play this week. The teams that will not play are Man City, Villa, and Palace. That's in terms of obviously the Premier League. So Man City playing the FA Cup, Villa playing the FA Cup, Palace playing the FA Cup. So I for one have got a fair few players that won't play this weekend. So what I'm going to do is in this segment is I'll suggest a few substitutions from each position. I'll try and keep it, rather than me say how many people I've got out. I'll do a bit of a basis per position. So we'll start with the goalkeeper. Main sort of absences are going to be Raya, Henderson, Emi Martinez, Ederson/Ortega, whichever one starts from Man City. They're going to be the main absences. So for me, I'm going to sub in Sells from Forest, and I'm going to put him in for the rest of the season as well. I'm going to not worry about him now for the rest of the season. Statistically, one of the best in the league. 108 saves. He's averaging 3.2 per game. 14 clean sheets, and conceding just 39 on the year, which is 1.1 on average. Reasonable schedule for the rest of the season as well, playing 5 teams lower than themselves. Obviously, they do play in the FA Cup, I think. Let me just check. I'm sure they do. They do. Even though they play in the FA Cup, they still play. When do they play? I think they play later on in the game week, which still counts towards this game week. Yeah, they play on Thursday next week against Brentford. So even though they got the FA Cup game this weekend, Sells will still get you points. So don't worry about that one. In terms of the defence, I personally had a team that was down 4 defenders, which is not great at all. So for me, again, I'm going to go with Nuri for Wolves. He's been a good option recently. Often plays a lot during games. He gets up and down the field on attacking purpose. They play Leicester, who've scored 3 in the last 10 games. As mentioned, I don't need to say much more for Nuri. I think I said it all in the EPL Monster. I think Shah is also a decent option for Newcastle. Obviously playing, again, one of the worst teams in the Prem. Ipswich shouldn't really score too many goals, if any at all. Newcastle, solid defence. Shah's got 9 clean sheets, conceded just 39, and conceded 3 goals in the last 6 games. So I think they're 2 good options for defensive substitutes this week. In terms of the midfield, if you don't already have Harvey Barnes in, this is going to be the ideal time. He's in really good form, priced nicely, plays at relegation-bound Ipswich. As mentioned in my bet selection earlier, and in the EPL Monster breakdown for Harvey Barnes. Newcastle scored a ton. Only two teams scored more. He's in great form. 13 contributions in 12 starts, 7 in the last 7. He gets some shots away as well. Averages some decent amount of points for your team too. And for my forward substitutions, I personally had Mateta, who scored midweek, which was great for me. I had Mateta, Mamouche, and Watkins in a few of my teams. So ideally, I'm going to like someone who can potentially score a few goals this weekend to account for their absences. But I would also like a player that's going to be able to stay for a few more weeks as well. I don't want to be making a sub just this week. So I'm going to go for Cunha again. I think he's a solid option, as mentioned in my breakdown for the EPL Monster. Not much more needs to be said. And again, also mentioned in my EPL Monster, a good value option is going to be Jimenez. Plays Southampton. Statistically the worst team ever in the Premier League, so should dominate this game as well. So it's going to be a tough week this week. I know there's going to be a lot of people who have a lot of players out for the final sprint contest this weekend. So hopefully I can suggest a few players that can get you some points this weekend and for a few weeks afterwards as you start to bring those players back into your teams. And yeah, I just wish everyone luck in all fantasy contests this week. If you have any questions, don't forget to drop me a follow on Twitter and I'll answer sort of any questions. The link to my Twitter is in the link tree, which is in the bio. So let's get down to some boxing. Okay, so we've got a huge boxing card this weekend, and it's going to be one of the fights of the year with Eubank JR and Conor Benn. Obviously, a lot of history between the two families. I've been a boxing fan for many years. One of the fighters that I always remember putting on a good show was Liam Smith, and he fights this weekend on the undercard as well. He will face Aaron McKenna, young, exciting prodigy, upcoming in the rankings for their division, the middleweight division. But yeah, again, I remember watching Liam Smith. He had that huge streak of knockouts. He had a knockout streak before facing Canelo, which he lost. And then since then, he sort of toned it down a little bit. He obviously beat Chris Eubank Jr. and then he lost to Eubank Jr. as well. And that was his last fight. But he will face the 14th middleweight contender in McKenna. He himself has not fought sort of anyone big yet. This will be his biggest fight to date. He's still in that stage where he's looking to establish himself, and obviously he'd like to do that with a statement win against Liam Smith. On the other side, Liam Smith has a huge amount of experience. He's fought in a lot of title fights against big names who have also themselves been in title fights and things like that. So he's at the top level of the experience ladder, if you like. He hasn't fought yet since that loss to Eubank Jr., where he did get knocked out before knocking him out in the fight before. So I think it's going to be a close fight, but it might seem a little biased, obviously, because I've watched Liam Smith for plenty of years. But I don't think I don't think Smith's time is up just yet. I think McKenna, he is an exciting fighter, but I think Smith is too experienced, and I think his experience will come into play in this fight. And I think it'll help him win. So I'm going to go with Smith moneyline at plus 120 for my dog of the day. Not too many fights in this undercard, which I'm planning on taking. Obviously, Anthony Yard is an exciting heavyweight, but the odds on that aren't great at all. So I expect him to get the win, no doubt. But there's nothing sort of playable in that. So I'm going to go straight to the main event, and that's Chris Eubank Jr. against Conor Benn. So obviously right off the bat, this fight has a ton of potential for fight of the year. Probably the biggest non-title fight around right now. Obviously everyone's all excited about these title fights. This has no title involved, just pure feud and hatred stemmed from their fathers who fought years ago. And it's getting a lot of traction, a lot of attention as well. So Chris Eubank Jr. is the bigger and the older guy. This is his division. The middleweight division is his division. He's the number 3 ranked middleweight contender in the world. He's lost just one fight since he lost to George Groves in 2018, and that was to Liam Smith in 2023. And obviously then he avenged that loss and he beat him by knockout the fight after. So 2 losses since 2018, obviously again against George Groves and Liam Smith. Conor Benn on the other side is the younger guy and the smaller guy. He is an impressive fighter, but he's coming up 2 weight divisions. A lot of unknown with Conor Benn. In my opinion, he's not really done much. He's not fought anyone sort of big, and he hasn't fought anyone big enough to get him, ranked within his own division. Moving up from welterweight is going to be a drastic change for Benn. his camp is saying he's punching hard and he's training well. But in my opinion, I don't see it, happening quite that smoothly against Eubank JR. Ben has potential to shock the world. This is his fight to lose. In effect, he's got none of that favourite pressure on him. He has the potential to shock the world, and everyone's expecting Eubank JR to win, I think. But the experience and the weight difference favours Eubank in this fight. I see this going, two ways. I see it either going by Eubank by knockout or Conor Benn by decision. But given the hatred and the all the feud between the two families, the knockout record for Eubank, I think he is going to be smart enough to find the win. Obviously, being the bigger guy as well, obviously helps him as well. So I'm going to go for Eubank JR moneyline. That's at minus 200. So it's a bit juicy. So I'm going to go 2 units on Eubank JR moneyline. From boxing, we're going to UFC again. Another fighting card which doesn't have too much that looks playable or comfortable enough for me to play, except for the main event, and that's Mercado Gary against Parates. So Parates is 21-6, and he's 4-0 in the UFC. Very, very dangerous fighter. He's got 19 wins by finish, and he's actually got 10 knockout finishes in a row. And none of those 10 fights have reached the third round. So he's only, maximum is 2 rounds. He's a prolific knockout finisher. He's going to be facing Gary. He's 5-1, 8-1 in the UFC. Also a very dangerous fighter, 8 wins by finish. It might be a fight that favours Gary the longer it goes on. He's got 4 straight fights to go to the judges' scorecard, so he's getting that distance. The last fight he did go full 5 rounds where he lost by unanimous decision. But he's never been finished in his career. But Parates has been finished 5 times. So the knockout in Parates, the finishes in Parates fights has been pretty drastic. It's 88% finished inside the distance for him. But with both fighters being very dangerous finishers, the probability says the fight finishes inside the distance. And I'm actually going to go for the fight to be won by KO or TKO at minus 115. And that again, basically, as I said, Parates is a knockout machine. Mercado Gary can also get a few knockouts as well. So I think either fight, I don't think this goes to judge scorecards. I think either fighter is capable of getting the knockout win. So fight to be won by KO or TKO at minus 115.
Elite Wagers Weekend Parlay.
So this is another thing that I like to do within the podcast. I like to bring a bit of fun, and I've been doing this for years. I've decided to share it with everyone that listens, and it's a weekend-long parlay. So it's going to consist of plays between Friday and Monday, and it's basically 5 legs, 5 selections, 5 different sports. And the idea is basically just to, you have a nice chilled weekend. I often sit down, I watch a few different sports. I'm a big NBA fan. My Cavs are obviously in the playoffs at the moment. I'm a big football fan. Obviously in NFL season, I'm a huge NFL fan. Formula 1 fan, so I'm a big sports fan. So I like to create a parlay, 5 different sports, 5 legs, and I like to sit down and be able to watch all these different kind of sports, and hopefully it cashes. So I'm going to share mine this week. We've actually hit a few since I started this, since that sharing this. So I think I'm 4 and 4. I think I'm pretty even, and the nice odds as well. So I'm going to start off with some esports. So I'm a big esports fan as well. I'm a big gamer as well. So I'm going to go with LA Thieves minus 1.5 handicap. They're absolutely dominating the whole league at the moment. This is quite simply an easy matchup for LA Thieves. They're the favourites to win this major, and that's basically it. Their hard point, their control are top notch. They're at the top of the league in both of those categories. Their search and destroy isn't too far behind either. So I think they can actually win this 3-0, but we're going to go for a minus 1.5 handicap for LA Thieves. The next leg I'm going to go for is the Cleveland Cavaliers. So they are my team, my NBA team. It'd be rude for me not to put them in a parlay, but all seriousness, they've been dominating the whole East, if you like. They play the Miami Heat tonight, and they've dominated that series so far, winning both home games. Obviously, they got the locked in the number 1 seed, and Miami are the number 8 seed. Cavs are -6 favourites tonight, and when you look back at both of the other 2 games that they've won, it's been by fair few. It was 121 to 112 in the last game, and then 121 to 100 in the game before. So got a big margin between the 2 teams, and obviously Miami look like they're struggling a little bit on offense as well, and they can't really slow down this Cavs offense either. So I'm going to go with the Cavs money line. The next one's going to be Villa and Palace over 1.5 goals in that FA Cup tie. As I said, I think Villa will qualify. Both teams are, really good goal-scoring teams. Crystal Palace played out a 2-2 draw, in midweek against Arsenal. And obviously now they play on Saturday in the FA Cup, the chance to get to the final for both teams. It hasn't happened in a long time. But Crystal Palace games, 4 out of the last 5 have been 2 or more goals. And for Aston Villa, 5 of the last 5, even stretching back to 9 of the last 10 as well. I think both teams are capable of scoring goals, and I think both teams' score may hit, which obviously helps us cash this over. But I definitely think there's going to be 2 or more goals. The next leg is going to be in the Eubank and Benn fight, and it's going to be fight to have a knockdown. And basically, I mentioned before, Eubank Jr.'s knockout record is really, really good. And just the pure hatred and the pure the hate and the ferociousness of this fight. Both fighters looking to go in all guns blazing. I can definitely see this fight having a knockdown for either fighter. But to get 1 knockdown is a decent parlay piece. And the final one is going to be in that Gary and Parates fight, and it's going to be fight to go the distance. No, as I mentioned, I took the fight to finish by knockout. I think this is another, basically back in this. I think either fighter can get the victory, whether that's Parates by knockout or Gary by submission, whatever it may be. I don't think it goes to the judges' scorecard. So I think we've got five great legs this week. I think we're actually going to hit this one. I don't think it's going to be sweaty. I think it's going to be fairly sweat-free. So 5 legs, 1 weekend-long parlay. It's going to be at plus 420 as well, so nice odds. So jump on that. If you do jump on it, follow me on Twitter, give me a little message, like my tweet and things like that. Let me know that you're riding with me this weekend on this parlay. So that is me done for the episode. So I'll get this wrapped up. I'll do a quick little rundown on all the plays I'm playing this weekend. It's not too big of a card this week. I've had some huge cards over the last couple of weeks, so keeping it nice and slight. And hopefully we have a clean sweep this week. So first play, Everton or draw plus 130, Newcastle -2 plus 100, Wolves -1 plus 100, Aston Villa to qualify at -147, Nottingham Forest to qualify at plus 200. Obviously then we've got the nice fantasy picks as well, so you can go back and listen to those if you missed those. Over to the boxing, Liam Smith moneyline at plus 120, Eubank Jr. moneyline at -200, that's a 2-unit play. And then fight to be won by KO/TKO -115 in the Gary and Parates fight as well. Weekend long parlay, LA Thieves -1.5 in esports, NBA playoffs, Cavs moneyline, FA Cup, Villa Palace over 1.5 goals in the boxing, Eubank and Benn to have a knockdown. Gary and Parates, fight to go the distance, no in the UFC this weekend. That's at plus 420. So appreciate everyone for listening so long. Listen to me bang on about sports again. Weekly theme now. But appreciate everyone for listening. Appreciate everyone for dropping me the likes and things like that on Twitter to help me grow. If you could follow me on all social media. The link will be in my link tree, which will be in the description to this episode. Drop me a like and a follow, a subscription. It's all free on any platform that you use, and obviously again that'll help me get a wider audience, and that help more people win money. So don't forget to sign up to FanTeam as well to get that free entry to the EPL Monster this weekend. Sign up, no deposit required. Using my link, get a free entry to the EPL Monster. If you do feel generous and if you do feel you want to get involved in some more contests and things like that, bet £10, you get £25 free as well. But remember to click my link. And that's it. That's me all wrapped up. Again, follow me on Twitter. I have daily plays every day. At the moment, we're high on MLB, NBA playoffs, and NHL playoffs. I've just posted actually my plays for Friday today over on Twitter. So if you don't want to miss out on any of those kind of sports and things, I do that on the daily. So go over, drop me a follow, drop me a message as well. I do daily fantasy in NBA and everything every day anyway. So if you need any help or want to pick my brains or you need some suggestions and things like that, don't hesitate to drop me a DM. Appreciate everyone for listening. I'm out. I'll catch you later.